All right, if you're on a Wednesday afternoon in Albuquerque right now, it is monsoon season in the Rockies, and it is rocking and rolling over Albuquerque
I wish we
right
could,
now.
If we wouldn't get copyrighted, we could play the Garth Brooks When the Thunder Rolls song.
Oh.
I feel like that we would get dinged for that.
Yeah,
I know I know how much you love country music.
Oh, I really do. Talk about missing out on something important. It is that we could have a stinger with the sound of Garth Brooks on it. But
calm down, sir.
We have had some lightning strikes very close to the house here.
Yeah, the lights are flickering.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see if we lose power.
Yeah. We'll try to get all the way through this, but plenty going on, and we'll get rolling on this. Give you a quick idea what we're going to cover here. First of all, we've been getting a lot of questions. Why is no one running for anything in New Mexico?
I know.
Especially on the Republican side, because you have all Democrat incumbents, right? Well, we don't have any Republicans challenging them right now. We're going to talk about why that may be and why a little bit of the hesitancy makes sense. And then I think some people do need to jump in at a certain point because there is a chance for things to look better for more competitive races in the state. So we'll talk about that. And then we're going to get into a little bit of what's going on with a new ranking from Wallet Hub. We are always interested in those. So we'll talk about where we are on that ranking. And then we're going to get into this whole RussiaGate thing keeps blowing up. Now, we still don't know what to make of it because you don't know where it's all going to go. But it is pretty interesting to start watching how everything's starting to play out here a little bit. And so we'll talk about that. Tulsi Gabbard went in front of the media on Wednesday. And she kept making promises. So she kept running it up, saying, here we go. So we'll see how that shakes out. We'll break down some of that stuff. And then we're going to look back at what the media actually did. It's very easy to forget exactly how horrendous the media was on this story.
On RussiaGate.
And how bad it was.
Yeah.
So we've done the work of maybe finding a few little compilations. And then one of the worst examples I could possibly find.
Yeah.
Of this whole thing. So we'll do that. Home prices, new numbers are out on home prices. If you're looking for home prices to fall,
keep waiting.
Mm-hmm. But the market is slowing down. One of the greatest sound bites from one of the biggest fools in public life. Oh, would you believe if I told you someone sat down in a serious interview?
Don't give it away, guy. Just tease it. Your job is to tease right now. Don't you tell the viewers what it actually says.
I know.
It's called a tease for a reason.
Well, I'm teasing it.
Okay, then tease it. Don't give it away. I know you, and you're getting ready to say it. So.
All right. So then we'll talk a little bit about Stephen Colbert's response being bounced. One of the most ineffectual, weird kind of responses.
Yeah,
and
dumb.
So we'll talk about that. And then we're going to get into a little WNBA talk with Ava because she wanted to do a WNBA story.
Yeah, she's fired up about it.
So yeah, she's very fired up about this.
We'll bring her in on that.
So we'll talk about it.
As someone who's never really gotten into women's sports, I'm very into women's basketball the past 48 hours. So
just for this cause, you're into this cause.
For this cause, I think this is actually really important.
Okay.
Well, we can't wait to hear from Ava on that.
We're gonna have
Mark can't wait to talk about WNBA.
I am psyched up for this.
If there's any topic that Mark wants to talk about, it's the WNBA.
I do love it. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm always like, what are the Liberty doing tonight? Who are they playing?
Yeah.
Who are the Fever taking on?
Yeah.
Who's coming into Indiana gonna mess with the Fever? You don't mess with the Fever.
The fact that you know any of these
What's
teams
going on with the Sparks? How do the Sparks look?
Impressive.
Here we go. And I don't know, whatever team's in Phoenix, some sort of fireball of some sort, or hot, or the Phoenix, Scorchers, or whatever they're called. Who are they playing?
Okay.
We don't know.
Well, wait, I do have a little bit of breaking news today.
Oh, sorry. And then there's one more piece of video from Mount Washington, which is pretty awesome.
Okay.
So, little meteorology
Any sort of mountain weather.
Yes.
Chatting.
I do love it.
Mark loves to talk about
Sorry,
that.
go ahead.
No, breaking news. So
Yeah.
I went today to the orthopedist because I've been having pain, like searing pain in my hip, right, as you know, for quite a while, for about a year. And I went in today thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to take an x-ray there and tell me I need a hip replacement, right? Like, this is the fear I'm having. This is the age we're getting to, is that we talk about hip replacements.
Don't you rope me into you and your hip problems, old lady. I'm not doing that.
The good news is my hips they're fine. There's no arthritis. There's no bone spurs.
Goodness
I just
gracious.
have a really messed up back.
This discussion is making me older.
Oh, come on, though. It's good news. No hip replacement for me.
So now is the question. We have all sorts of calls, literally 3 or 4 a week. People calling saying, hey, who's running for CD1? Who's running for Congress or Senate or governor? Like, it seems like nobody is running.
I get calls too. I get asked
no,
all the time.
I'll bet you do.
Yeah.
I'll bet you do. And so we know on the Democratic side, you have all the incumbents, right? So all of them are running again because they're, lifelong politicians. So that's what they do.
Right.
They get elected.
No term limits,
they try to
everybody.
stay there forever. So you have all your congressional reps are doing that. And Ben Ray, of course, he's a lifer. So he'll run that string out as long as he can. And then for governor, obviously you got Holland and Bregman on their side, and I think the guy down in Las Cruces, right? But you don't have many. I don't even know if Greg Hull is still running for governor. He kind of mentioned it, kind of was prevaricating a little bit, kind of like maybe not. So what's going on here? Well, so we started to look into some numbers and kind of found some here that were sort of interesting. Number one, obviously look into who's running in these races, and governor's the top line. But really, I mean, United States Senate, you don't have any candidates, right? House, you don't have any candidates. And so we start looking at some numbers here. And don't underestimate how important it is to be in a presidential midterm. Those are really, really hard. It doesn't matter who the president is. It never matters. It is because the other side can chip away at what the president is doing, saying these are the worst policies ever. They're going to kill everybody. And so all of a sudden people are like, really? They are? Oh my gosh. And so you start looking at it, and the president's approval usually starts to slide. It's just how it works. So is that happening with Trump? And so we tune into Harry Enton, and here's what he says about Trump's numbers here.
6 months in, the rules of political gravity absolutely apply to Donald Trump, and the USS Donald Trump is taking on a lot of water. What are we talking about? Trump's net approval rating. Look, he started off back in January +6 points on the net approval rating, -3 in March, -7 in May, and now he's at a term too low at -11 points. His net approval rating has dropped nearly 20 points in the aggregate since the beginning of his presidency. The American people do not like what they're seeing, and Donald Trump's administration is in a ton of trouble at this point in the minds of the American voters.
Well, on what issues do the American voters seem to disapprove of him?
They disapprove of him on all of the issues. He's underwater on all the major issues of the day. Trump's net approval rating on all the major issues, -5 points in immigration, his best issue. He's underwater. How about the economy? That was what he was elected for. -14 points. How about foreign policy? -14 points. How about trade and those tariff wars? -15 points. And of course, the Epstein case, the lowest of the bunch, -37 points, 37 points below water. My goodness gracious. On every single issue, Donald Trump is below water on all the major ones. They're all dragging him down. No matter, it seems, what Donald Trump does, the American people do not like it. And that is why at this particular point,
Okay, a couple things. First of all, it's an overreaction by Harry Enton. You start looking at some of these numbers, and some of this is debatable. Okay, but it is a fairly recent poll. And what this gets to is, as you do every single thing you're doing as president, and the other side just is an oppositional party, and all they're doing is saying, you're doing terrible, people are like, well, before they know and before everything really takes effect, they kind of say, well, they have their doubts, right? And you see those numbers come down. And so those numbers overall, they're not great. They're a snapshot in time. It's not necessarily a huge deal. I don't think it is. But if you're a candidate thinking about running for a major position in the state of New Mexico, or even in any state that any of you may be in right now, they've got to weigh these things, because we used to live in a political environment where people would see the local races, meaning their congressional reps or even their U.S. senators, as different from the national party. That is really changed in the past 10 years, right? Everything's been nationalized since Trump came in, meaning Trump is a proxy for you, whoever you are that run as a Republican. Like Trump's a proxy, just like, Hillary Clinton would have been a proxy in 2016 for every Democrat, right? And Kamala and Joe Biden and everybody else, right? And so because there aren't these dividing lines, and it's harder to stake out a personal relationship with your voters, where you're different than the national party no matter what, it's one of those things you have to consider. So if you start looking at numbers and you say, my gosh, I don't know, I don't know.
Well, and that's, I'd be curious to see, obviously we don't have our hands right now on any sort of relevant polling to show in New Mexico is, how much is the Trump factor still weighing on our state? I'd say it's still pretty heavy because Trump did not win in the state. He gained ground, but he did not win. And when you have to take that into consideration as a Republican getting ready to run in a midterm, because it does have impact. Because like you said, they're not deciphering, oh, well, this person isn't necessarily Trump, even though they're Republican.
Right.
The voters in the state of New Mexico don't do that.
Well, nobody in the country really is now. Very few people. There are very few senators. So in Senate, I say because they're statewide elected office, right? There are a couple senators. Susan Collins in Maine is her own brand. She is not tied to the Republican Party in the way that other politicians are. Lisa Murkowski in Alaska, right? She actually just ran as a write-in and got in. Like, it's crazy. But so there are some of those people that are independent. Right, they're able to do that. And what I mean by independent is just independent of the party. They have their own reputation, whatever that looks like. Right, so that's tough to find. Now, I will say on the other side, here's why I think things are going to change. I do think what you're going to see here over the next year is you're going to know how the economy is doing. If interest rates come down, if things start, the economy continues to gain steam, you reach some more trade deals. We've got one with Japan that's been done. I have the hiccups, and one with the Philippines.
I wanted to say something, but I held back.
Well, because you're wondering, is it the hiccups or
no? I know it's the hiccups.
Yeah. No,
you're doing it like every 3 seconds.
Yeah, no, I think I'm over it. I think I got it. I think I kicked it.
Did you kick it?
We're about to find out. We're about to find out. So you reach some trade deals, right? And interest rates come down, things start rolling. Okay, if that all works, then things improve. And then all the naysaying about every single thing Trump does, all of a sudden doesn't turn out to be true and his numbers are better.
That sounds great. However, you have to be able to jump into a race way before a year from now.
Exactly right.
To be able to do that. And that's a risk, right? Because things can go, as we know personally.
Yes.
And you've said it numerous times.
Oh, COVID. Did we all see COVID coming?
No.
I mean, that was the one that was in the Senate race. Senate race is dead even through, the first 3 months of the race. And then COVID comes and I mean, totally changes everything.
Yeah. It is crazy. And the Dobbs ruling came
by the way,
in.
just a quick thing. COVID, good example there. COVID doesn't happen. Trump doesn't lose.
Right.
Like, Trump doesn't lose.
I know.
There's no question.
Well, he was doing really, really well. So
the economy was in really good shape.
Yeah.
So just there's so many things that happen. So I'm just telling you, as a candidate, I guarantee you some of these people are looking at this going, I don't know. But here's the thing. So anybody who thinks, okay, well, you see what Harry Anton says, and look out. Here come the Democrats. They're going to wipe out the Republicans in the House, and they're going to make the Senate really close. Not so fast, my friend. Okay? So look at the numbers here, the approval numbers on the Democratic Party right now. They're at 19%. Okay, so there is a difference between when you're asked about Trump and you're like, I don't know about the tariffs. I don't know about this. I don't know about the economy. I don't know about that. Well, what about the Democrats? Oh, no. So then what that tells you is that you're likely not going to see a massive swing in the midterm election. You're probably not going to see a wipeout like you did in Trump's midterm in 2018, right, where he got wiped out. Republicans got wiped out. No question. And you're not likely to see that. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean,
because you have a Democratic Party that is not presenting solutions right now. They're just saying none of this is going to work. It's all a failure. Everybody's going to lose their health care. Everybody's going to lose their Social Security. And when that doesn't happen, then they're going to turn back to them and say, "What are your solutions to improve life for Americans?" Right now, Americans are not saying we think they have the solution because right now they don't.
Right. And I guess that would be the question I would have about the people here in our state. And I'm talking just specifically about New Mexico voters, for instance, because that's really what I have the experience with helping you run 2 races is, with the Democrats just coming in and saying, this is bad, Trump's bad, the beautiful big bill is bad, all the things are bad. They don't offer up any viable solutions or changes. I think people here still just stay the course and vote for their party line. I think that that's still what would happen in this next 2 years. And I could be wrong. I just think we need more here. Like, I would love to say that voters are ready for solution. I think that there are some active voters that are definitely ready for solution, but is it enough to swing a vote back to putting Republicans in a Congress position, for example? Right? Or any sort of would that be, do you think that there's real optimism there in the next 2 years?
I think in some places, pockets of the state, yes. I think down in CD2, I think you can win. I do think you can, and I think 2 reasons why. One, because it's a closer district. And then number 2, because the person in that district right now is wholly lacking in his abilities. Right. So Gabe Vasquez, I think, to me is not a serious person, but
I don't think Stansbury is a serious person.
Well, we've. But
I think that can she be beat?
Well, I mean, again, I think you're going to need to see things slide a little bit in the country a bit. It's going to be tough. I do think Republicans have to do some work on the ground. So you got to register more voters. You've got to start putting that work in that doesn't surround itself with candidates. It surrounds itself with getting new voters into the tent. And they're there. Those people do exist. They are there. But you just have to get them registered and get it done. So we'll see what happens. But the overall takeaway here is, as you're looking at this as a candidate, you might initially say Trump numbers are down. That's pretty normal for this type of thing. So that's why they wanted to pass this bill quickly and let it take effect and let it benefit people. And then the question is, and I'll go back. I'm going to give some credit to somebody right now.
Oh, no.
And it's Uncle Joe Biden.
Okay.
It's the truest political truism he ever said, which was, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And he's right about that. He was right about that.
Yeah.
I don't know when he first said it, but I'll give him credit. He deserves credit for that because it's true. And so when you look at what's going on with the Democratic Party and where the Republicans are, I don't think there's any risk of a blowout. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it can happen. Not with where they are. However, could there be a slight Republican or slight Democratic victory? That still remains to be seen. But if you're a candidate running in this state, and it's roughly a 10-point state, because it still is, for most candidates, you're going to lose by 10. Okay,
Most Republican candidates.
Yeah, right. Now, I do think that's going to change. So if you start changing things on the ground, that can change. But just some of the stuff that goes into it.
And I also think that, we've talked about this too, is how much money you actually need to raise. For instance, to run for governor, you're going to need a ton of money.
$10 million.
You're going to need $10 million.
Yeah.
And fundraising $10 million is, as you know personally, is not a walk in the park. It's one of the hardest things to do. And I think most people who have never run or have never run in a statewide race where they have to raise those kind of funds are a little shocked when they actually say, okay, I'm going to dip my toe in this. And then they say, oh, okay, wow.
Oh, no, you're so right. I think you have no idea of what it takes to sit down and to make those phone calls and to do what needs to be done and to have people around you that force you to do those things too, right? I mean, you just
we
have
won't
to
name any names.
No, we won't, Jessica Perez.
Jessica.
But you have to have that. And you do. That's what we've talked about this before. It's the vast majority of your day. It isn't going in and talking to a rally of 1,000 people. That's at the end. That's at the very end.
Yeah.
And I get it. You have some great rallies. There are some things that happen even throughout the campaign. There's some great events. There are. But those are few and far between. Every single day is the raising of the money.
Yeah, I would
and this
say
whole thing of like, everybody's going to know who I am and blah. No, they don't.
Yeah.
So you got to go grind it out and you got to go convince tons and tons of small dollar donors, medium dollar donors, and the high dollar donors that you can get the job done, and they got to invest in you. And there's also donor fatigue, where you keep going to the same donors who are very generous, these big dollar donors, and they eventually go, we keep losing, right?
Yeah.
And they're concerned about that. And I think most of them along the way maybe sometimes get the kind of eye roll, we keep losing, but then eventually they always get on board because they want to help change the state. So we'll see. It's tough.
I do think the shift is changing. It's just going to be a matter of the speed in which it changes. And I think that shift is coming.
Yeah.
I think it's just going to be interesting to see at what speed does this change. Is it midterms? Is it the next presidential election?
Right. Are we looking 2030 and that's when things really tip?
Right.
Or something like that. Yeah, it's a possibility.
So
okay.
it's going to be interesting. Yeah. Okay. So again, this is not the best news, but I think it's important that we talk about this because I think it's important for us to, when it comes time to vote for those legislators again, and we just keep throwing money at, say, education, but with no real results, what's the answer here? What should we be doing instead? So this new survey that came out from Wallet Hub, it basically is talking about at-risk youth. Guess where New Mexico is? The states with the most at-risk youth.
I would think we're pretty high.
We're pretty high. We are in third place for that.
So we're not worst.
We're not worst.
Okay.
But we're in the top 3. So basically there's 15 indicators that they looked at, from dropout rates to drug abuse, and we're at the bottom in nearly all of those categories, which is pretty frightening. And so basically it says here that New Mexico has the 3rd most at-risk youth, and one of its biggest issues is that it has the highest share of people ages 18 to 24 who don't have a high school diploma, okay? Pretty high there. And then it says that only 14% of our 8th graders in the state perform at or above proficiency level for math. And also 19% do so for reading. So we've talked about that I mean, we've been talking about that for a long, long
Right.
time. And we've talked about when you were running, how important that is, those early, even like second and third grade reading.
Absolutely.
And we had game plans for that, but obviously we didn't get to put those into place. People brag about Mississippi. They started those changes. They've
did.
stuck with those changes.
Reading
and,
coaches, things like that. Yeah,
and now
really
Mississippi
important.
is really climbing high on all that. So
Yep.
I think that's interesting. But here's another little thing. It said indie youth, or basically disconnected youth.
Yeah.
It's defined as students who are A, not attending school, and B, not working.
Yeah.
And these are people between the ages of 18 and 24, right? So they should be doing something,
Yes.
either schooling or
Yeah,
working.
zero reason for them not to either be in the
Right.
workforce or in school.
Correct. Well, we have we rank number 7 in the country in this category, this idle youth category.
Yeah,
Okay, this
yeah.
people that we're not really doing anything. So you combine that with a top 5 ranking in youth drug use and obesity, by the way, so health concerns, and number 10 for youth poverty. It just is not looking great for this generation in our state. And if you want to take a look here, the states here with most idle youth is what they call it, right? This disconnected youth. We, again, are in 3rd place for that. And really, so when you look at that and go back to this next slide, Ava, really fast, we're at number 1. We have the highest percentage of youth high school dropout rates in the country, right? So we've spent thousands of dollars in per student on our state, right? Like per student.
Yeah, absolutely.
The money, I think we're at $32,000 or $33,000 per student in public schooling right now, per student. We spend money on programs and youth programs and all these things. But basically, what the experts are saying is when you throw just money at it, right, with maybe no accountability, no like, hey, where do we stand? Where's our standings? What are we going to do to make schools really perform well? Where are we grading them? School choice, we've talked about that. Does that help, raise up the competition of schools? Where does that all land, right? And some of the experts are saying that not only just that is what matters, but the experts say that the states that are doing the worst right now with this at-risk youth, 2 big areas. Not a whole lot of parental involvement. Okay, so to help those kids learn to read, go to school, stay in school, teach that work ethic at home from a young age. That's number 1 that they say is still really missing. And then just less real job skill training provided for these folks when they get to this like 16 to 18 in that measure.
Right.
So those are the 2 things that the experts say that if we could somehow, I don't know what that means. I don't know, again, what the solution is, if it's more trying to raise up parents and trying to help support parents
Well, yeah, you have
who
to.
need those resources to help. But basically just throwing money at our education system, it's not working.
Right. And then not only, and you're talking a little bit about trade schools, things
Trade
like that too,
schools,
need to be invested in more so than we are. We are to some degree, but we need to more. I think this gets back to, we have had a culture for too long, I think in the past 20 years, in this country as a whole, but I think in this state, where we have taken what used to be the state's secret advantage was the family. It was the close family bond that I think so many families in this state have, where you look out for family members. They may not be direct relatives, but cousins and people within your
raising
orbit.
a village kind of.
Yeah,
takes a village.
critical. Mom and dad in the home, which is really gives a child a massive advantage. And we've stopped talking about those things. We stopped saying, wait a minute, these really do matter. And keeping families together and valuing the family is absolutely critical. And a government can't incentivize parents to break up. It's a terrible idea, and we've done it. And we have to stop it. And we have to incentivize families to stay together. And because the family is God's greatest blessing to a child. Mm-hmm. It just is. And it's critical. And so when we ignore those sorts of things and we say they don't matter, no, they do matter. They do matter for these kids. And then exactly what you're talking about, a bunch of those other issues, things like school choice, things like reading coach, all these things can help. But ultimately, your point is a good one. It starts at home.
It does start at home. So kind of some disappointing news, but hopefully we can, again, it's very mindful to keep those things in mind when we are voting for our legislators who vote on a lot of where the money's going. How are we doing this? What programs are we investing in? And is there any sort of, grading program for after we've shelled all this money at these schools or these programs? Are they working? Are they not? Like, what systems are we putting in place to actually track that and make sure that that's a good ROI on our spend?
No question.
Anyway, okay, so I'm going to let you take this one. This is RussiaGate. It continues.
We're still too early in Russia. Yeah, we'll move through this a little more quickly. But look, this whole RussiaGate thing's crazy. So Trump goes into the Oval Office on Tuesday. And he makes no bones about it. on who he blames for RussiaGate and what happened. And so now this is starting to bubble up everywhere, because when the president's talking about it from the Oval Office, other presidents, for example, that are being blamed in all this can't ignore it. And so you have to deal with it. So here's Trump talking about what happened with the RussiaGate thing. He's been talking about this forever. But now as more information starts to leak out, I think he feels more emboldened, no doubt.
You look at those papers, they have them stone cold, and it was President Obama. It wasn't lots of people all over the place. It was them too. But the leader of the gang was President Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? And except for the fact that he gets shielded by the press for his entire life, that's the one look, he's guilty. It's not a question, I like to say, let's give it time. It's there, he's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election. They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries. You've seen some pretty rough countries. This man has seen some pretty rough countries, but you've never seen anything like it. And we have all of the documents. And from what Tulsi told me, she's got thousands of...
Okay, so obviously Obama, his name's kind of getting splattered about here now. So he comes out with a statement, and I'll read a little bit of that. It says, out of respect for the office of the presidency, our office does not normally dignify the constant nonsense and misinformation flowing out of this White House with a response. But these claims are outrageous enough to merit one. These bizarre allegations are ridiculous and a weak attempt at distraction. Nothing in the document issued last week undercuts the wildly accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election, but did not successfully manipulate any votes. These findings were affirmed in a 2020 report by the bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee, led by then-Chairman Marco Rubio. Okay, this is just a deflective statement. He's not actually addressing what he's being accused of. Basically, he's being accused of saying, this group came to him. He got this group together that had done all this investigating, right?
Our intelligence community.
Right.
And their assessment was what?
And their assessment was, hey, Russia didn't do anything of real substance here to change or sway the election in the favor of Trump, right? There was no...
And did they talk about if they were working with Trump? They had nothing on that.
They had nothing on that, right?
Okay.
So then, according to this allegation, Obama is then telling this same group, I want you to change that report. And I want you to find the fact that Russia's been involved and was helping Trump. Okay. So then within 24 hours, they released this report that has all of these findings that Russia was behind it. And this led to a circus for Trump for the next year.
There's no question. So we'll get to that.
Major allegations. But I want to just go back. All he's saying is, nothing in the document issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election, but did not successfly manipulate any votes.
Right.
He is answering a question that we're not talking about that. We're talking about, what did you ask the intelligence community to do on whoever's behalf? You asked them to change a report, is what he's being accused of.
Well, and then leaking information to media members that would back that up.
Which they did it immediately.
Right, so we'll get to that. So let's get to Matt Taibbi, who has been investigating this. And he had some interesting things to say, especially about the intelligence community assessment. And that's what he's going to say. When he says ICA in this bite, that's what he's talking about. And that's basically our intelligence community, what they came up with. And how he talks a little bit about the fact that in this particular case, there was actually real debate on whether Russia even wanted Trump to win. Because, I'll let him explain it. Here's Matt Taibbi.
How Brennan overrode the objections of his deputy director of analysis and two of his handpicked Russia experts to include Steele dossier material in this assessment. I also did a story last year with Michael Schellenberger about how they suppressed dissent in the ICA that said that Russia was actually hesitant about Trump. They considered him mercurial and unreliable, and saw that Hillary Clinton represented continuity and was manageable, and they weren't so concerned about her being president. All of this was suppressed, and Brennan was the person who was most aggressive in pushing the other line. So the fact that he was in charge of divining Russia's motives, and remember, motive is a key thing here. It's not just that Russia interfered, it's that Russia interfered specifically to help Donald Trump. Those are two things.
That was it,
and
right?
so he was in charge of that second part.
Yeah.
Okay, so the whole point on this is Russia, what they came up with was not only do we need Russia to have interfered, but Russia interfered to help Trump. And in some cases, and there are plenty of media who took their leaks and went with, okay, a step beyond that even. So it's Russia interfered for Trump, and then Trump and Russia worked together. Okay, like that's as far as this all went. None of it was true. Okay, we all know now none of that was true. And so what you've seen recently is, and today, Wednesday, Tulsi Gabbard came out. She went through more of this and said, there is more here and I'm releasing more. So we want to listen to what she said from the podium at the White House on what they have in all of this.
The stunning revelations that we are releasing today should be of concern to every American. This is not about Democrats or Republicans. This has to do with the integrity of our democratic republic and American voters having faith that the votes cast will count. There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't. The report that we released today shows in great detail how they carried this out. They manufactured findings from shoddy sources. They suppressed evidence and credible intelligence that disproved their false claims. They disobeyed traditional tradecraft intelligence community standards and withheld the truth from the American people. In doing so, they conspired to subvert the will of the American people who elected Donald Trump in that election in November of 2016. They worked with their partners in the media to promote this lie, ultimately to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump and launching what would be a years-long coup against him and his administration. We're here today because the American people deserve the truth, they deserve accountability, and they deserve justice.
Okay. She lays it out very clearly right there, right? And by the way, the dubious sources, when they talk about the Steele dossier, that's some information that basically was concocted and it was not true. Right. It was basically made up, and then they went and sold it to the intelligence community, and the intelligence community bought it, meaning decided to believe it, even though they knew they didn't have any backup for it, because they had a conclusion they had to reach. So when you have the conclusion first, you work your path to get you there. And that's what all this is. Now, do I think you're going to see, President Obama get arrested over this and all? No, I don't, because presidents have a tremendous amount of leeway in how they deal with things in their job as president. So I don't think that's what's going to happen. And Gabbard talked about it later in her presser, and we won't necessarily run that bite today, but she talked about it and said basically, hey, look, he should be held accountable. And so will the DOJ do that? I don't know where it goes with Obama and everything else, but it's very clear. The intelligence community came up with a story and they sold it to a media who was dying to eat it up. And if you look back at the stuff they said, it was horrendous. And so we want to play some of what was said here. Again, mind you that none of this turned out to be true. And all of this ate up 4 years. I mean, it was constant. And so just listen to how this went and listen to the language they use on Russia and Trump. And they are, and we almost jumped the gun on that one. The language they use is, it's done. It's happened. It's happened. There is no allegedly, there's no any of that. Okay. And this is clip 12.
Trump is the end of our democracy. Votes were definitely affected. Russia hacked the election to tilt it to Mr. Trump.
The Russians definitively hacked the election.
Russia did hack the election.
No doubt. The Russians hacked the election.
Yes,
Russia hacked the election.
Fact, Russia hacked the election.
President-elect Donald Trump still not sounding convinced that Russia hacked the election.
The president does not want to come to terms with the fact that the Russians hacked the election.
President Trump says he still wonders if the Russians hacked the election.
If you can get him to accept that Russia hacked the election, see if you can get him to accept who won the Civil War.
If he admits it, it casts a shadow on his victory over Hillary Clinton.
Russia hacked the election.
Russia hacked the election.
Russia hacked the election.
Russia hacked the election.
Let's be clear, Russia hacked the election. Definitively, Russia hacked the election, and Russia is doing it again now.
Election-related cyber hacking.
Cyber hacking of U.S. elections. Cyber hacking of the election.
Russia was cyber hacking the election.
Russia was cyber hacking the election.
The CIA, the FBI, NSA.
All of these intelligence organizations,
17 intelligence agencies,
all conclude that Russia hacked the election.
If we find out that Donald Trump just theoretically was colluding with Russia while they were hacking the election, that is completely impeachable.
This dossier alleged a conspiracy between the Trump campaign and the Russian effort to hack the election.
The director of national intelligence, the head of the National Security Agency, the head of the FBI, all of these intelligence experts saying Russia hacked the election.
The FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the former director of national intelligence, James Clapper, I mean, they've all said this. So to believe that that's wrong, you have to believe they're all involved in an elaborate conspiracy to get Donald Trump, which seems a little far-fetched to me.
Does it?
Seems
Does
far-fetched,
it seem far-fetched? But turns out it was absolutely true.
What would be fascinating is to now get all of these people that did this and have them respond to it now.
Yeah.
And because we're talking about this on our show, you'll hear it about it on Newsmax and Fox News. You're not seeing it on a lot of the mainstream media
Well,
yet.
it's starting to leak in there. They don't have a choice.
It better leak in because they better start talking about it. I would love to tag all of these anchors and news people and say, now what's your response?
Well, and let's play one more clip that I think is the cherry on top of this. Because what they did is this is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So they go all and talk about how this is all happening, which it's not. And then the fact is they look back at it and go, I can't believe we're even talking about that this is possible. Well, it's not possible, but you made it up. And now they add on top of it. Just listen to how CNN handled this in January of 2019.
The president of the United States denied that he's a Russian agent. And by the way, how extraordinary is this that the question even had to be asked in the first place? This is where we are.
I never worked for Russia, and you know that answer better than anybody. I never worked for Russia. Not only did I never work for Russia, I think it's a disgrace that you even asked that question, because it's a whole big fat hoax. It's just a hoax.
That is President Trump today pushing back against the bombshell reporting over the weekend that the FBI opened an investigation into whether or not he was working on behalf of Russia. Specifically, after the president fired James Comey as FBI director back in May of 2017.
This is a very grave matter. The fact that we're asking the question as you began this segment, is the president of the United States a Russian operative?
It's extraordinary.
Is itself extraordinary? And this is this really getting to the truth, frankly, is more important than precedent or executive privilege.
Yeah, it is. And it turns out that what was most extraordinary is that these people like James Comey and Clapper were colluding to make up stuff, and they tried to sink a presidency to do it. And really they in some ways did, because they got Biden elected. In a lot of ways. So, but this just shows you what happened in all of this. And you listen to all those people and their ridiculous comments about, oh my God, it happened. And again, this is what happens when your intelligence community lines up and tries to take out your president. I mean, it really is unbelievable.
And
as you
it
watch
will be frustrating, though, I think, to the people, especially like people like us that feel like there needs to be some justice here. If nothing happens to this collective group, that we're all part of this on the inside, like there has to be steps. It's treasonous. It really is.
Well, I think the problem is going to be, which will be interesting. I don't know. So I don't know where this is all going to go. So when we present this to you, we do it specifically to say, here's what we know happened. We're now, what's going to legally happen? I don't know. Because you're going to have some of these FBI people and some of the people in the CIA and these people leading this charge, the Brennans of the world, who are going to say, we thought it was true. And so we acted as if it was true because we thought we had enough information. That's what they're going to say. And so some of this is gray area, and we'll see how it all shakes out. We'll see what comes out. I don't know how it's all going to go. But just seeing how clearly the media was a willing participant and how quickly this can happen. When you have people within the intelligence community leak to the media runs with it because they want it to be true. Mm-hmm. They're dying for it to be true. And if it's true, then they win. That's how they look at it.
Well, and it's just, you think about days of media when they used to, like, they would hold back on something to make sure it was really verified. You know, even things along the lines of like the deep throat stories back in the day, right? You had to really get so many people to tell you that this was actually true. Now you do. What was interesting about that one soundbite is that guy saying, hey, so if you have this collective group of all these bigwigs saying that this is true, I mean, are you really going to think this is a conspiracy against Trump? You know, so I can understand why the media would be fooled by this, which makes it even more dangerous. And there has to be accountability for the people that put this report together, funneled it to the press, and it went to the press within 24 hours of this report. So I'm telling you, this was a full-blown effort is what it sounds like. To wreak havoc and chaos on Trump's administration and his presidency. Yeah. And I think there should be some sort of accountability on that because I think
but it is you're headed down a road though. You are headed down a road which is one of, one president leaves office, the other comes in, and then all of a sudden we're talking about charges. And believe me, Trump didn't start this. There's no question he didn't start it. But the question is, where does it go from here? So we'll see how it shakes out. I agree with you. There has to be some accountability. I just don't know where it's going to go. But you can see how clearly this did absolutely happen. And when you hear Trump talk, and he's like, this is a hoax, and everybody's like, yeah, right. Yeah. And then, no, it absolutely was. So it's unreal. Okay, let's move on. We're going to go to a quick thing on housing prices. Mm-hmm. Okay, new stuff comes out from the Wall Street Journal. Housing prices aren't going down. So if you're now they are in some states like Florida, they're starting to come down a little bit, but home prices rose again in June to a high, and the housing market is not likely to have a whole lot of recovery here in 2025. Home buyers were hesitant to jump into the market this spring. Okay, so we're not seeing volumes that are really high. Right, you're not seeing a ton of people move, and that's where you get back to interest rates and things like that.
Yeah, and like until the interest rate comes down, I don't know who's like bucking to get out there to buy a house unless you absolutely have to because you're moving. Yeah. Right. But if you're staying in the same town and you're like, I just want to upgrade or I want to do something different. Well, too bad because you're getting less house for a lot more money with this interest rate staying as high as they are.
Well, in the median existing home price in June was $435,000. That's its highest rate. Okay. So those are some of the highest numbers here. Now, President Trump has criticized, obviously, Jerome Powell for not cutting those rates. That needs to happen for people to get off the sidelines. I mean, there's no doubt. So rates, are staying high. Prices are staying high, at least for now. And then we'll see how things end up shaking out. But it's kind of interesting to see that the total home values are maintaining across the country, at least for right now. Now, if you start bringing those rates down, you will bring people more people in. You'll bring them off the sidelines. There's no question. But for now, not so much.
Okay, so dumbest comment of the week is going to go to this video clip that you pulled. That you're like salivating at just how dumb Hunter Biden could possibly be. Oh my gosh! In this, it's a podcast interview, I believe, that he gave. Yeah. And I mean, he was talking about the benefits of smoking crack. And so let's just play the clip, and then Mark will give you his 2 cents on it.
Does crack cocaine make you act any differently? No. Is it safer than alcohol? Probably. People think of crack as being dirty. It's the exact opposite. When you make crack, what you're doing is you're burning off all the impurities so that it combines with the sodium bicarbonate, which makes it smokable. That's all.
Oh, that's all. My gosh. Yeah. See, I didn't realize this. No, crack isn't whack. Like, crack is clean, baby. It is clean. And when
spoken like a real addict.
No, I think when you get chemist Hunter and he's breaking down for you what's going on with the crack, I think that's critical. I mean, look, crack needs an advocate. It's needed one for a long time. And now that Hunter Biden has stepped in and said, I am that man. I am the advocate for crack. So the way it sounds now, it sounds like to me, he's like, would you be shocked to know that he advocates using crack? It's unbelievable.
It's spoken like a real addict. I mean, it's sad and pathetic. And the fact that he doesn't look back at that and think, I mean, he says he's been sober since, 18 or 19. And I'm like, Have you?
Has he?
Because you're sitting here telling people
that actually,
the crack,
it's pretty good for you. Actually,
it's pretty. Yeah, there's health benefits.
There's health benefits
because you're smoking it.
Yeah,
and
no.
you're
When you
burning
do
off.
enough crack, actually, it wards off Alzheimer's. We now know that. So that's something we should all think about. This guy should never speak again. It is gold every time he steps up.
And this was
to a
just one
microphone.
of the clips that he said that was ridiculous. But anyway, I can't listen to the podcast. I'm not going to promote it because I don't even want to listen to it.
Okay, Stephen Colbert decides that he is going to celebrate his firing with some of his friends. So he brought in all the late night hosts, and they all did this hokey, ridiculous bit that we're not going to show. But then Mark Cuban comes in, and Mark Cuban decides to perform a song on Stephen Colbert's behalf.
Okay, and before we get to actually showing the clip,
I
want people to see if you notice like his makeup job. Mark Cuban's makeup job is frightening. He looks like a vampire.
Okay.
So it's weird to me. Like we've made fun of you at times for, you did an ad once where we had some really rough makeup on you. And we never used a makeup person ever again for you. We were like, we got it managed. We'll be fine with Mark's red cheeks. What is up with Cuban besides making an idiot out of himself?
This whole thing is why Stephen Colbert is where he is, because this is just stupid and it's childish and sort of weird and not funny.
Yeah, not funny is the biggest one.
Shiny, orange, and empty inside. I'd say you're a traffic cone, but I would swerve to avoid a traffic curve.
Oh, that's gonna leave a mark, Cuban.
Donald, do you know that to be a billionaire, you have to have the billion part in your bank account? Not just the air.
Sean, you just fell into the shark tank.
Donald, I know you have no shot with Hispanics, because there's no way in hell you're getting the Cuban vote.
Okay. All right, gotta stop. We gotta stop. It's just so bad.
It's not funny. Like, and you wonder why the show's canceled, right? It's like, okay, if you
stop.
You need better writers for that. Okay, this one is interesting. You got Ben Ray now. He's coming out and he's coming out in favor of the, they're slashing some budget cuts for PBS and NPR and some of these public radio outlets.
Right, they can still raise the money on their own, by the way.
Right, and we all know, if you've listened to any of these outlets, NPR, fairly biased organization now, right? So asking for taxpayers to fund that is kind of ridiculous, right? Well, now you have Ben Ray out there saying, listen, if we do not fund these public radio stations, people are going to die from weather emergencies. So here's his latest tweet. Public radio, Mark, it saves lives. I don't know if you know this or not. When wildfires and floods hit New Mexico, local stations delivered real-time alerts that helped families evacuate and stay safe. Last week, Republicans voted to slash funding for public broadcasting, risking lives in New Mexico and across the country.
Okay, a couple things. He knows, Ava, we can put that back up for 1 sec. Now, I'm sure he didn't write this. I'm sure his staff did, and they're being willfully deceptive. The line number 2, when wildfires and floods hit New Mexico, local stations, which are the stations, the ABC, CBS, and NBC, okay, they're the ones who people turn to for this information. You have to have a delivery system, either through your radio network or through your television network, to get people this information. You have to have a crawl system, and that costs money, significant money, and every TV station who does this has it. The public broadcasting groups don't. They don't. They aren't on the calls with the Weather Service talking about what's going on with these fires and what's going on with these floods. They're not there. They're not part of that. He knows they're not part of that, but he makes it up. And he goes and takes local stations and tries to conflate them with public broadcasting stations. There's not a person in this state who's going and turning to public broadcasting to get their information on this stuff. And he knows it. And so this is the sort of thing where the overheated rhetoric of they're costing lives. Everything costs lives. Heck, Colbert being canceled is going to cost lives.
People are going to die.
I don't know how it's going to happen, but there's going to be...
Well, it's the end of democracy. I don't know if you heard that.
There's no doubt.
There's
Democracy's
no more democracy in this.
If your favorite talk show host is canceled because he's incredibly unprofitable, that's a threat to democracy.
It's a threat to democracy.
And there's no question that lives are going to absolutely be on the line when you can't turn to public broadcasting and get your weather alerts.
Yeah.
Give me a break. So just stop with the overheated rhetoric on everything. but it is everything. Everything. I mean, when you're a hammer, everything's a nail, and that's what Ben Razor's. I mean, come on, stop. All
okay,
right.
your favorite thing to talk about, the WNBA.
Yes.
And they are making headlines today, Mark, because they are going out there saying, hey, let's pay some higher wages to these women. And so your daughter, Ava, is pretty passionate about this. And
I think we should give the women more money to play basketball. That's what I believe.
Okay.
I think they deserve it.
They deserve it.
I do think they deserve it. I think especially because there are really good players on the WNBA. I think you can call out specific players who definitely deserve more money, but the league as a whole, I don't think it would be necessarily a bad thing to increase their wages.
Okay, so here's something I learned though, Ava, in this little research, and maybe people already know this. I did not know this. I didn't know that the NBA subsidizes the WNBA.
Yeah,
so basically, So do you believe that then, therefore, the NBA should be paying more money?
I'm not advocating
women?
for let's feed more money into the WNBA. What I'm advocating for and what the WNBA is advocating for is greater shares of the money that they make goes to the players.
Yeah, but there's not enough money.
Not
they don't
this year.
make
There's
enough
not,
money.
but they're set to make $100 million next year with the TV deal that they just signed with CBS and Disney.
Well, that's actually a following year. But yeah, I mean, so what they have now is in the respect that you're talking about, what they're looking at getting is around a $200 million a year
profit.
TV. No, that's
deal.
the TV
Sorry,
deal.
TV
Yeah,
deal.
TV deal. Okay, it's not necessarily profit. Okay, right now that deal is $60 million a year, right? So that's a significant increase. But here's the thing. The league's current media deal is valued at about $60 million per year. The NBA, which owns 60% of the WNBA, has negotiated these new deals for them. Under the new agreements, the partners will distribute about 125 regular season and playoff games nationally each year. 50 will go to NBC. You'll see 30 go on Prime Video. And from there, the playoffs will be split among three groups. Disney, which owns ABC and ESPN, they'll broadcast 2 of the first round series, and NBC and Prime Video, they'll also broadcast some as well. But my point here is this. It would be great to pay everybody more money. But if you're not earning that money, that's a problem. And so the problem the WNBA has, which not all women's sports have, is that they're not generating the kind of money that is commensurate with top-end athletes, right? So if you're talking about the WTA, the tennis players across the world, they are unbelievable athletes, and they generate a ton of money, and they make a ton of money, right? Or if you go look at track athletes, now they don't get paid as well. They tend to get more money on the sponsorship end. So my argument would be, if the WNBA wants to get more money, they're first going to have to go to sponsors for individual players. So the Caitlin Clarks of the world, or the Paige Beckers of the world, or whoever. Angel Reese. Angel Reese is another one. I can't remember her last name, but they've got some good players, right? And so they're going to have to. They're also earning money on the side versus requiring the teams to give them more and more money than they've actually earned at this point. What I mean by earned, I just mean that how much money is their endeavor developing, and if they're drawing in a ton of money, I agree. It's just that you can't pull that much money out of something where they're not making that much money.
The thing that I'm suggesting is I watched a video on it where currently players at the NBA they split 50-50 revenue with the actual NBA, and the players get 50% of the revenue they make. That comes from games, and it comes from all merchandise that they make as well. That's secondary. The WNBA, they make about 9.2% of that revenue. What would work financially?
Right, but 9.2 of a much smaller.
Yeah, it's a much smaller group. I know, which is why you can't bring it up to 50% like you can with the NBA. That's not feasible. It's not going to make enough money. What people are suggesting is you bring it up to about 20%. They make about 20% of the revenue they get from merchandise and games, then 9%. And it still doesn't, they're not saying, and I think what people are deliberately misreading this and saying Caitlin Clark wants to make as much as Steph Curry, and that's not true.
No one's saying
that's
that.
not happening. No, people are saying that. Absolutely, people
that's
are
crazy.
saying that.
She's not going to,
and that's not true. And I don't think we should make it out to be like, oh, these.
But I think Caitlin
women,
Clark is going to. I guarantee you, Caitlin Clark makes $10 million a year.
She doesn't. She makes $130,000 a year.
No, I'm not talking about the salary from the team. I'm talking about sponsors.
Well, keep in mind one thing that
her salary should be higher. I don't see why that's like a ridiculous.
Well, no, I just think what you're asking for is you're asking to put the cart before the horse. You're like, they haven't made this money yet, but we should pay them more. No, make the money first.
Well, and I would say, to both of you, that looking back at the NBA, which started in the 40s, it wasn't actually profitable into the 80s.
That's
and
actually not true.
Yes, it is. And what happened was...
It is true.
It isn't true.
Me and Ava looked it up.
In front
it's
of you.
actually true. And you know what helped them cycle into that profitability was some big players. Magic Johnson,
I understand
Michael
that,
Jordan,
but here's
all
what
that.
you're missing on
No. You just zip it.
You
Let
zip it. Okay,
me
sorry.
just finish my statement first, sir, and then you can interject.
Go.
But that helped propel more people to watch the NBA, which helped make more money for the NBA. So my point is, you get some of these female athletes that are incredible to watch, right? And you start promoting them, and then maybe that will follow the same course as the NBA.
Which they've started to do with Caitlin Clark, but I think they should
promote some other ones,
Okay,
right?
You also have you have a product that people have not demonstrated that they want to pay big money to watch.
Not yet,
You
but
just
that's
don't
what I'm
have
saying. The NBA also had a product that was failing.
Well,
It was
hold on.
actually
It's
not profitable.
No, they had some issues. There's no question. But part of what helps a lot of these teams is that there's only part of the story is the money generated each year by the team. The other part of all of this is the fact that the team value is what is more important than all of it, really, because if you have a league that is popular, then the value of the teams continues to grow. The true value for owning a sports team isn't necessarily the yearly income. It's the total value of the team when you go to sell it. I mean, if you look at, a lot of these, look at these NFL teams, they're worth so much money. Not because the yearly, but because when they go to sell, I mean, the yearly they make money. Don't get me wrong. They make a ton of money. But overall, the value that you have in these franchises is massive. You don't have that value in the WNBA. It doesn't exist.
Not yet.
No. Okay.
You think it won't?
No, I don't. No,
Do
I
you think enough people just aren't interested in women's basketball?
Yeah, I think people are definitely interested. I think people are more interested in women's college basketball. I think it's more compelling to watch.
Well, I think college basketball across the board is more entertaining than.
I think the NBA is hurting in that respect too. One other thing to think about. What about this? And Shaq has mentioned this. What if you lowered the rim? What if you said, why don't we have
the rim of the basketball?
Yeah, why don't you lower the hoop so that when women play, they can dunk? I mean, there's no dunking in the women's game. There's none.
And you think that that's what's going to make people watch the game more?
I actually think that would work.
I think it might help. I mean, why not?
Because it's not satisfying to watch a game if nobody's scoring.
Well, I agree. It does need to be
them
exciting.
score.
It has to be an exciting game to watch. I think college ball, I like the fact that there's always plays in college ball, and in professional with NBA, they just throw the ball and they do a bunch of this.
They
and
have plays.
It's very.
They run sets.
You do not. I played basketball, sir.
I don't care.
And you do not actually.
You played basketball in like 9th grade.
Yeah,
No, I played basketball for 8 years,
Oh my
people.
gosh.
I
All
played
right,
forever.
okay.
Anyway, I'm just saying the plays, they do not do the plays as much as in the NBA as they do in college ball. You can actually see what they're trying to do and set up, and you actually see strategy. You don't see the strategy in the NBA. They're all
Do they
trying
have
to
a
be,
March Madness
They're all
for
trying
Oh,
to be.
absolutely. Yeah, women's college basketball has March Madness.
Well, they don't. I can't finish my
I
statement.
wouldn't have known about. Like, they need to push it for. I don't know. I know that people get angry because they're pushing women's sports too much, but I think that that's the only way you're going to get people interested in it is if you seriously push it down people's throats.
I just think
until people realize that it's interesting and they engage in it.
Okay. I just don't think you have it in women's pro basketball. I just don't think it's that interesting. I think there are plenty of really compelling women's sports. I just don't know that women's basketball
I'm
is that.
just wondering
is
if
it.
we're losing all our viewers right now because maybe we've talked about this too long.
Okay, all right. So last story. Okay, Ava, I'm sorry we didn't reach it. We didn't really reach it. But
Okay.
let's
They need to
agree
pay Caitlin more money.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Okay, so let's go to Mount Washington in New Hampshire. Just take a look at these clouds. This is pretty cool. The windward side of the mountain. So in other words, that left side of the mountain there, it's on the other side. The air comes up there, it cools, condenses, and forms clouds, and then it goes down the leeward side and it heats up and those clouds evaporate. Pretty cool stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, not bad. Okay.
Not bad. Little weather video for you
There
guys.
it is.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us, you guys. Make sure, again, please like, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on our Instagram page if you'd like to, and you can always drop us a note at info@nodoubtaboutitpodcast.com. Thanks so much, you guys, and have a great rest of your week.
You've been listening to the No Doubt About It podcast. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at No Doubt About It Podcast.
No doubt about it.
The No Doubt About It podcast is a Choose Adventure Media production. See you next time on No Doubt About It.
There is no doubt about it.